This is going to be a really long video. So you might have known that I decided to make a series of reviewing about Power Rangers, Super Sentai, and Kamen Rider. And now if you don't know about Power Rangers, Super Sentai, and Kamen Rider yet, Power Rangers and Kamen Rider are basically two series from a tokusatsu from Japan. They are basically Superman but for children. Super Sentai usually have 5 or more people, but Kamen Rider usually have only 1. Well, nowadays there are more, but there will still only be 1 protagonist, while Super Sentai have maybe more than 10 protagonists. Super Sentai usually focus more on the comic relief, the entertaining part, while Kamen Rider has a more dramatic story. And Power Ranger is basically the America counterpart of Super Sentai, but way more cheesy. Oh, believe me, I love Power Rangers, but compared to Super Sentai, bro, you need to work with that. And especially since now we have come up with Ninja Steel, Mega Force, Dino Charge. Oh my god, I really want to start watching Power Rangers, but I can't. Why? I don't know. And now, so you might be thinking there are over 40 Super Sentai series, and no, I have not watched every single series yet. I don't have that much time, but I've watched most of them. Of course, there are a few series that are so old that there were no content of it on the internet, only pictures. So no further ado, let's just get into the video. So first, we have Himitsu Sentai Go Ranger. I didn't get the chance to watch it, but I did watch the counterpart movie of Go Ranger and Jakka, and I have to confess though, Go Ranger, they sound cheesy. Like it was produced in 1976. What did I expect? I shouldn't expect that much. But of course, Go Ranger for a series at that time is pretty good. The character seems typical. And because it is like 1970, so I could say they were the first character in that characteristic to exist. So I couldn't say that they're typical. And now for Dengekisui Jakka. I've watched the series, and I have to say though, it has one of the strangest morphers of all time. Like you have to step into a tube, you have to wait until the tube like slide down into a giant machine, and you have to basically wait for the energy to load up to 100%, and then you can henshin? Fuck that! That's super weird. Like, but big one character, he could just like go, oh, and he already transformed. Super Sentai logic, guys. Sometimes the henshin could take up like 3 minutes, but you could just go, oh, and 3 seconds later you are a Super Sentai. But the plot is pretty simple, and how do I say this? Like some characters, they weren't in shape. Like they were, how do I explain this? They are so typical, but they're like snakes, okay? Like in several circumstances, they will have different characteristics that I felt like I'm watching 5 clowns doing tricks. Jakka is not bad. The plot was awesome. No, not kind of awesome. Before a series in 1977, that is pretty great, but the characters, not so sure. And now for Battle Fever J, this series is straight up weird. This is the only series ever in Super Sentai, the only season in Super Sentai, that instead of transforming, they just wear the suit, as in take off your clothes and then put on the suit. That is so realistic, it hurts. It's also kind of funny, and also it has one of the first Super Sentai deaths ever, and it was built in a really lazy way. I can definitely tell that. Battle Fever J, I have to say though, it has some pretty good cultural appropriation content. Well, not the kind of cultural appropriation you would expect from Tumblr nowadays. It's stupid, okay? And now next, Denzi Sentai Denziman. That was the 5th one. I'm sorry. It was supposed to be Taiyo Sentai Sun Vulcan. Yes, I love Sun Vulcan. It was the only Sentai ever that doesn't have females, and I love it. We don't have whining bitches. Love it. The only complaint I would make though is that some can focus too much on the plot. It doesn't have character development. But for a series at that time, it's good. And now for Denzi Sentai Denzi Man, I don't like that series. The characters, they were, how do I say this? Besides their besides the physical trait, besides their job as superheroes, they're so bland. In the plot, they were kind of weird. It's weird. It's incomplete, but complete at the same time. I'm like, I don't make sense. But guys, believe me, Denzi Man plot is the weirdest plot ever. Like, if you watch that series, you will understand what the hell am I talking about. I couldn't explain to you guys. I'm sorry. Next is Go-Go 5. Dai Sentai Go-Go 5. I didn't get to watch the series, but from the look of it, and I've seen a lot of comments on the forum, that series seems to suck, but the theme of it seems pretty good. It has some predictions about Google, hence the name, but many people say that it sucks. There wasn't any plot and the characters were plain, and I'm like, okay, there were no content of it anyway, so I don't have to waste time watching another Sentai series. And next we have, oh my god, Kakuji Sentai Dynaman. Dynaman is the Michael Bay. You know how his movies always have explosion, boom, boom, there, and then pow, pow? Yeah, Dynaman is the real creator of boom, boom, and pow, pow. Okay, step aside. I thought Michael Bay was the king of boom, boom, and pow, pow. Oh my god, you need to watch Dynaman. That season has so much explosions. I legit thought that in the end of the series they would just explode by themselves. I know it's stupid. The characters they were built pretty great. This is the funny thing though. Dynaman sets out a standard for a typical Sentai group. Like, believe me, a responsible Red Ranger, an adventurous Black Ranger, maybe a young and free spirit Blue Ranger, and maybe a maybe old-fashioned Yellow Ranger, and a sweet but somehow tough Pink Ranger. Yeah, that is so typical. Dynaman is the first Sentai group to ever set out a standard. But for the plot of it, it seems pretty normal. It's okay. It's not good. It's not bad. It's not my type. And now for Chodenshi Bioman. I hate the series. I hate the season. Straight up. But the theme of it is so awesome. Like, super electronic. Hell yes. But the characters, they are particularly dumb. They have one of the most dramatic and prolonged deaths ever. And of course it is pretty heartbreaking. But after watching it and watching for the second time, it just looks stupid to me. I couldn't blame. It's like 1890s. I couldn't blame them. But still, in the plot, it was incomplete. And the supporting character, he was annoying as hell. I couldn't watch Bioman. I'm sorry. Next, Dengeku Sentai Changeman. I hate Changeman also. Changeman is that one series that specializes this one character that seems to be favored by every single fan, but then there's another part of the fandom that hates that character and turn the series into a controversial season. And I have to agree though, Changeman have a lot of negative comments just because of how they're focusing on the one character. And I have to admit though, I don't hate her, but I don't like her either. But in general, focusing on just one character and just forgets about all the other characters ruin Changeman. And the theme of it is so awesome. They have Pegasus and Phoenix, guys, and dragons, and griffins, and mermaids. That is dope. Even though they follow a military theme, it's still awesome. But the plot though, I like the idea of it, but can we skip the other part? And now next, Hikari Sentai Maskman. Ooh, Maskman. A pretty controversial season though. How do I say this? The romance aspect of it was fucking awesome. It was the first Sentai season ever to have a kind of romance, and I love it. I love it. I love the romance aspect, but for the action aspect, not really. This is like Changeman kind of a bit. They're focusing on only on the romance of the main of the Red Ranger and somehow forget the character development of the other four Rangers. But overall, it is a watchable season. But I wouldn't recommend it to people who want a season full of fighting and does not focus on the romance. And now next, wait, how do I read this? Joju Sentai Life Man. Life Man is the first ever animal Sentai, I know, and the selection wasn't that great. I have to admit though, the selection of animals, not my type, but understandable. The plot is pretty cool, but I hate how they built a character. They seem so annoying. Like, guys, they seem totally nice people, but the way that the plot portrays them, they sound like whining children who couldn't get over their friend's death. I know that they are supposed to be whining just so like they could. It's one of the acting effects. I don't know what the hell is that, but in this case, it doesn't work. I wouldn't suggest watching Life Man because I couldn't cope with that season. I couldn't, guys. But now comes to the one of my greatest era of Super Sentai, Kokuso Sentai Turbo Ranger. Yes, Sentai, you have come to your sense and decided to have a good season. I love this season. This is the perfect combination of drama and action. Like, seriously guys, if Turbo Ranger wasn't a Super Sentai series and it's just focusing on the 5 characters' school life, I would totally watch them because the characters are so interesting and there are actual character development, guys. Actual character development. And plus, it's set up in school, in high school, and the characters themselves are interesting enough to have a series on their own. And the mechas are also pretty good in my opinion. Even though it looks pretty cheesy and fake, I still like it. Totally recommend watching Turbo Ranger if you can still find the content on the internet. And next is, I'm sorry, Chikyu Sentai 5 Man. Oh yes, it was an okay season. It's watchable, but it's not my type. Many people love this season, and I can understand why. It focused more on the family aspect, and I can totally relate to characters in this season. The plot was pretty decent, even though the acting was a little bit questionable. Life 5 Man was still watchable, but it's not my cup of tea. If you say that, can you watch it for another time? I'll say maybe, but I wouldn't, okay? And now next we have Joju Sentai Jetman. One of my most favorite seasons ever. This is the perfect combination of romance and drama, okay guys? This is probably the only Sentai season so far that has a love triangle. It is so awesome, and I love how they have the love triangle progress throughout the series and still didn't left out the characters. The characters developed, the romance developed, and even the villains were lovable. I totally love that series. I don't agree on Guy's death at the finale, but generally it's one of my favorite seasons. And next we have Kyoru Sentai Zio Ranger. Sorry, I don't speak Japanese. Zio Ranger. Now this is the first inspiration from Mighty Morphin's Power Rangers, so I thought that this series must be great. This season must be great. Oh no, this is probably the only season in my favorite era that sucks. The characters were bland. They were like automatic robots that just happens to be superheroes. The plot was shitty. The only arc that I liked was the Green Ranger arc, and it only lasted for 5 episodes. Sucks. Wouldn't recommend watching to anyone. And next we have I'm sorry. Jubo Sentai Dai Ranger. Dai Ranger is the only season of Super Sentai that Power Ranger doesn't dare to make a seasonal because they don't like to Americanize Kung Fu and other kinds of martial art, which I completely agree, and I don't think that they